everyone, happy STAMPtember. It's Sherry Carroll here for StAMPtember. I have a card for you using an exclusive set from Paper Artsy just for STAMPtember. The stamps I'll be using for my main image are by Ellen Vargo, and it's EEV10 by Paper Artsy. I'll go ahead and flip this over so you can see the back side. Red rubber cling stamps, and I love the size of these, great for art journaling as well. I'm going to be white embossing my image onto the Tim Holtz watercolor paper, so right now I'm just adding my Versamark onto the stamp. If you notice, I kind of give it a little twist to make sure that I can get those heavy lines done real well. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp this onto my watercolor paper. But first I want to make sure I have the bottom of that stem long enough, because the bottom edge of that paper is going to be the bottom edge of the stem once I cut it out. So I'll go ahead and use my stamp press here. Align it just to the right side, go ahead and press that down. Give it really good firm pressure so I get a great impression. Then I can pop that off, and next I'll be using my Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. This is a new product that we have. And I'll go ahead and use my spoon here, spoon that right onto that Versamark ink. You can see it's starting to grab that ink already. And once I have the excess tapped off, I can go ahead and use my heat gun and heat set that. Next, I'm going to be creating a background for my flower, and I'm using the Jofi letters. I wanted to do something different for my background, and I'm going to be using the Prima Art Basics. This is the really heavy gesso. I haven't used this yet, so I have to peel off my little lid here. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my palette knife and put some of that gesso down onto some scrap paper. And I have my brayer here, and I'll just be rolling through the gesso, and I'm going to brayer directly onto the stamps, and I'm just going to keep them on the packaging because it's a really great way to not have to take them off and put them on a block. So I have the reserve piece of that watercolor paper, and I am using the smooth side, and I'm just going to press this onto the letters, and this will give me a great gesso stamped image. The gesso will act as a resist in a way once I use my inks on top. So once I have that stamped, I'm going to go ahead and go back over and add some more. I'm not sure if you can see my letters there, but I'll add some more to finish up the background. Okay, so everything is dry now, and I have my water, and I'm just going to go ahead and spray my papers. I am going to use the brand new Tim Holtz Distress Sprays, and I have peeled paint, peacock feathers, and rusty hinge. Since my sprays are brand new, I've done a test spray on some scrap paper just to get the ink flowing, and so here I'm just randomly spraying my watercolor paper with my three colors. By spraying my paper with the water first, the inks now can flow around onto the watercolor paper, and I won't have to spray again. So next I'm going to grab a paper towel, and I'll clean up my work surface real quick just to get started, otherwise I have a really pooled inky mess. So I'm going to use the paper towel and just kind of blot up some of that excess color that's sitting on the edges of the paper. And by using just a tip of the paper towel, I can just kind of get in specific areas and just pull up some of that extra ink. I was so excited to be able to use these new colors. You can kind of see at the top where some of the colors have mixed together, where the green is sitting on top of that rusty hinge. So I'm happy with this, so I will go ahead and use my heat tool to dry it. Now this is all dry, and I'm adding some walnut stain just around the edges, and this will go ahead and darken everything up, plus it'll help pull those little letters out that I have stamped, and you'll really be able to see these once I pull this up. So now you can see how those letters resisted by using the gesso first. Next I want to add an additional pattern to my piece here, and I have my mini mister and the Tim Holtz layering stencil, the lattice. And I'm just going to go ahead and spray on top of my stencil there. And I'm going to let this set in for a second before I blot anything out. And once I'm ready, I'm going to take my paper towel and go ahead and leave that stencil in place and blot up some of that water. And when I pick this up, you can see where it has gone through the stencil, and now I have that lattice work in a reverse. I have completely cut out my flower from that watercolor paper, and I'm using the distress pens in the same colors. So first I'm going to start off with some peacock feathers, and I'm only adding color to the base of each section of the flower, And then I'm going to go back in with my detail water brush, and I'm going to go ahead and start mixing in that water. I want that deep color to stay in towards the bottom and then pull it out lighter towards the top. I'll do each section of the flower as if it was separate, and so I'll go ahead and add the marker in first, and then again go ahead and use my water brush and pull that around. If you don't have a water brush, you could always use a paintbrush. I would probably choose a rounded tip paintbrush, which might make it easier. So you can see how I'm going to stretch that up so that I get that lightest color at the top, and then drag some of that color back down towards the bottom. I've decided to do something really bold and gutsy, and next I'm adding in a little bit of the rusty hinge with the blue. I happen to really like how the rusty hinge and blue interact together, or the peacock feathers, I keep calling it blue. So I'm just adding the rusty hinge in towards the dark areas, and in a few minutes I'll go ahead and lift this up and show you. So I'm just kind of randomly adding this in, making sure that the water brush has enough water flowing so that it's not too dry. I want a white background, but I wanted to add something special to it. So I'm going to be using my texture paste and the swirl dot stencil from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to go ahead and add some white on white just onto the left portion of my card. I've created a top folding Nina card just by cutting it and scoring it at the top. And so here I'm just spreading the paste down onto the left side. And I'll make sure this is really smooth, and then I'll lift off the stencil. And here's another look at my finished card. I've added a little bow to the bottom of that flower blossom. I hope I've given you some inspiration for using our exclusive paper Artsy stamp set for STAMPtember, and thanks for watching.